We are happily there, everybody. But I lost everybody. Here we go. Huzzah! I think we got
Egypt.
Egypt. We are back down to the land of Egypt. Okay, before we start, we have two things I'd like to do. First, let us engage in the blessing for the study of Torah. Baruch
atah Adonai
Eloheinu
melech haolam
asher kidshanu b'mitzvah v'tzivanu la'asot b'divrei Torah. And so now we said a blessing. We can dive in. But before we do that, I just wanted to lift up that yesterday, we were very sad to, we shared it on Sunday, the news that Bob Mansfeld passed away. Bob was always such an active part of Friday night services and Thursday afternoon friendship club, but also he came pretty regularly when he could on Tuesdays to our Bible study group. He always loved to read. He always loved to ask questions, to learn more about the Torah, about the Parsha, Judaism. And so, we're just going to lift up his memory and his spirit this evening. We miss him and we miss all that he brought to our community. May his memory be for a blessing. As together we say, Amen.
That must have been very quick, because we saw him online in December.
Yeah, he started going downhill, unfortunately, in the past couple of weeks, a little bit more. So, it was very sad and, so difficult, but, man was almost 95 years old, missed it by a hair.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we had a nice service for him, and that little empty seat that he used to always sit in, won't be the same. Not see him there on the Friday night in his chair. So
yeah,
he was a contemporary of Anne Frank, if you can believe that.
Oh my goodness.
He was from Holland. He was from Holland, and he was basically a contemporary of hers.
Oh wow!
Within a year or two, he may have even been older.
I didn't know that in terms of the Anne Frank timeline, but yeah, it's
from Holland.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna begin. If I can get everyone just to mute as we begin, so we can sort of read and hear each other, and then we'll unmute. Obviously, just all that other good stuff. There's a lot right now of feedback and stuff. So if we can just do a little muting, that would be fantastic.
Lactose and lactose.
Okay, cool. So Rick, while we're here, you want to give us a read? We're on 39 of Genesis, verse 1. We are in the midst of our Joseph narrative, sort of in the very big, well, not in the beginning of the Joseph narrative, but we're going down to Egypt, going to have ourselves a time. Okay.
When Joseph was taken down to Egypt, a certain Egyptian, Potiphar, courier of Pharaoh and his chief steward, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him there. The Lord was with Joseph, and he was a successful man, and he stayed in the house of his Egyptian master. And when his master saw that the Lord was with him, and the Lord lent success to everything he undertook, he took a liking to Joseph, made him his personal attendant, and put him in charge of his household, placing in his hands all that he owned.
Thank you for that. We'll just pause right there. So yeah, he's going down to Egypt. He's sold into his household for Potiphar, who was a higher up, in Pharaoh's court. And Joseph's got some skills, got some ability. Whatever he touches turns to gold. He has that Midas touch. And because of that, Potiphar's household, is enriched. It goes really well for him, and they have a nice relationship. But like anything else, it doesn't always work out that way. It starts off great, But as Joseph learned, sometimes it begins well, it ends not so great. There's always problems that arise. But again, Joseph knows what he's doing. A smart man, a wise man. True? True. Of course, true. Melissa, you want me to read here? And from the time?
And from the time that the Egyptian put him in charge of his household and of all that he owned, the Eternal blessed his house for Joseph's sake, so that the blessing of the Eternal was upon everything that he owned in the house and outside. He left all that he had in Joseph's hands, and with him there he paid attention to nothing save the food that he ate.
Isn't that nice to have someone running your household and all you have to worry about is your nice hot meal in your home? You know, that's a nice thing. You sort of everything's taken care of. You know, the house is nice and shiny. Everything's put away where it needs to be put away. And you don't have to worry about anything. Just, you know, put the food on the table. It's nice. It's not a bad way to live for Potiphar. If it lasts. Now, we have to remember that Joseph is not just very handy and knows his way around the house and knows how to do things, but he's got a little bit of looks to him, a little charm. He's a handsome fella. Right, Melissa? Give me a little more here.
Now Joseph was well built and handsome. After a time, his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph and said, "Lie with me." But he refused. He said to his master's wife, "Look, with me here, my master gives no thought to anything in this house, and all that he owns he has placed in my hands. He wields no more authority in this house than I, and he has withheld nothing from me except yourself, since you are his wife. How then could I do this most wicked thing and sin before God?" And much as she coaxed Joseph day after day, he did not yield to her request to lie beside her, to be with her.
Okay, so usually in Torah and in the Bible, women are described, you know, you don't get much, but you get that, you know, oh, Sarah was so beautiful, or Rebecca is so beautiful, and whatever it is. We don't get that for any male characters except for Joseph. Joseph is a pretty boy. All the men want to be like him, all the women want to be with him, you know. He's got that sort of aura around him, and now he's doing the right things. And then, of course, his master's wife, Potiphar's wife, says, "Hey, you know what? You know, let's get together, let's have a good time." And Joseph says, "No, it's not the way to be. I can't, do that to my master, to Potiphar. I have authority over everything basically here, but that's not a thing that's going to happen." There is, we'll read a little bit more, and then I'll add a little flavor, a little color to this. But she is not amused. Him, but he says no, that's not going to happen. Tyler, you want to read a little bit? One such day.
One such day, he came into the house to do his work. None of his household being there inside, she caught hold of him by his garment and said, "Lie with me." But he left his garment in her hand and got away and fled outside. When she saw that he had left it in her hand and had fled outside, she called out to her servants and said to them, "Look, he had to bring us a Hebrew to dally with us. This one came to lie within me, but I screamed out loud. And when he heard me screaming at the top of my voice, he left his garment with me and got away and fled outside. She kept his garment beside her until his master came home."
Okay, so again, we're getting to a little PG-13, maybe a little mature audiences. Part of our text. It's been the common theme the past week or two. And so here he is working. It's like, it's a scenario set up for problems. He's sort of by himself, and no one else is sort of around, but she's there and makes an aggressive move, a strong play and sort of grabs him by the garment. The coat of many colors is gone by now, but whatever he was wearing, and gives him a little bit of the little, not so much seduction, I guess, but aggression. And he somehow gets away, he flees, but he leaves his clothing behind, which is not really the best play. I hope he had something else on, but he's running away without his clothes. And then being rejected, she concocts this whole thing about Joseph being the aggressor, Joseph being the one who was forcing the issue. And so that's her story, and she's sticking to it. And Joseph's going to be probably in a bit of trouble. A little foreshadowing here. So there's a great story the rabbis made up in the Midrash with Joseph, that this idea of him being beautiful, him being a really handsome fellow, that they say that Potiphar's wife was so agitated and aggrieved by his constant rejection of her, that she complained to all of her gal pals, like all of her girlfriends, and like, oh, come on, what are you talking about? It's just a dude, calm yourself down. He can't be that good looking. And so she invites them all over to the house and gives them all an orange and a knife, and tells them to peel the orange, with the knife. And then she calls Joseph in, and the story goes, Joseph is there, looking studly. And the women, as they're cutting and peeling the orange, wind up slicing up their own fingers because they're so entranced by Joseph's beauty and how handsome he is. So just a little color for you. I'd like to throw in a little story once in a while. But the rabbis are trying to make a point on Joseph's irresistibility. Even without the many-colored coat, he's still a handsome devil. And so he gets him in trouble. Not easy being Joseph. Donny Osmond.
Played Joseph. Amazing
Played
technology.
Played a thing. Oh my God. Okay, so Potiphar comes home, and now she's gonna tell a tale. Karen, go ahead.
I have to unmute.
There you go. You got it. Up.
Okay. And for some reason it got big. Okay. Then she told him the same story, saying, the Hebrew slave whom you brought into our house came to me to dally with me. But when I screamed at the top of my voice, he left his garment with me and fled outside. When his master heard the story that his wife told him, namely, thus and so your slave did to me, he was furious. So Joseph's master had him put in prison where the king's prisoners were confined.
Yeah, that's where you get prisoners, I guess, is in prison, so that makes sense. That's how it works. That could have been a little easier, I think, in the Hebrew, but in the English, a little harder. So yeah, there he goes. Not much of a trial here, not much of a he said, she said. Obviously it's his wife, so he's going to believe her. And Joseph gets thrown in jail for absolutely nothing in this case, but he gets put in prison after this whole episode. Not great for Joseph. Okay, but as Joseph always does, he makes lemons. He makes lemonade, I should say, out of lemons. So Joseph's gonna find his way out of here. Karen, give me one more. But even while
he was there in prison, the Eternal was with Joseph. He extended kindness to him and disposed the chief jailer favorably toward him. The chief jailer put in Joseph's charge all the prisoners who were in that prison, and he was the one to carry out everything that was done there. The chief jailer did not supervise anything that was in Joseph's charge, because the Eternal was with him, and whatever he did, the Eternal made successful.
But even in prison, he's rising up. I can't keep a good man down. It's interesting, that like he's wherever he goes, success seems to follow. So even though he's having a rough go, thrown into the pit, sold into slavery, out of the pit at the Potiphar's house, does well there. Shenanigans. Now he's in prison, and even in prison, again, he's impressing people. He's working hard. and to the point again, or the chief jailer basically gives him the run of the place. Okay, onwards and upwards. Linda White, you want to unmute and do a little reading for us? It's time for us to delve into some more dreaming.
Sometime later, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt gave offense to their lord, the king of Egypt. Pharaoh was angry with his 2 courtiers, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, and put them in custody in the house of the chief steward in the same prison house where Joseph was confined. The chief steward assigned Joseph to them, and he attended them.
Okay, so here we have our baker and our cupbearer. Didn't do well. Hard to work for Pharaoh, one has to imagine. You know, a very demanding guy. He, doesn't take any slack. And so whatever happened here between the cupbearer and the baker, they get thrown in prison. Perhaps the challah was too mealy one week or something. Maybe the manischewitz got spoiled. Maybe spill a little bit of the good stuff on the floor. Whatever happened, to jail they go. And then they get to meet Joseph.
Is it really that repetitive? It keeps saying the same thing. The chief cupbearer and the baker. How many times do they say that?
Yeah,
It's repetitive.
It's a little repetitive, but sometimes the biblical author lacks a little brevity. Wants to make sure that we know who's going on, what's going on, and where. Make sure we don't miss something. But yeah, the English again. I think that's one of the translational issues. In the English, it feels a little more garbled than the Hebrew, but I know rhythmically, it feels sometimes a little more off in the English. That's for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good point. Linda, give me one more.
When they had been in custody for some time, both of them, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison, dreamed in the same night, each his own dream, and each dream with its own meaning. When Joseph came to them in the morning, he saw they were distraught.
Did you ever have like a bad dream, whatever it is, and like you wake up all, it's like it's a little off, the dream was too real, the dream was too surreal, whatever it is, you sort of wake up, unpleasant. And that's what we have here, so like they had a bad dream, maybe too much good food and wine in the evening, let their minds go astray. Or perhaps a little stress. One would be stressed to be thrown into prison, so one can forgive them for having a stress dream at this time. And so Joseph, being not only just a good-looking fella, he sort of can see when people are not doing so well. He has a little bit of empathy and compassion. He can tell that they're sort of beside themselves. And so Joseph, being a good guy, is going to have a conversation, see what's going on, what troubles you, and so that's a nice element of Joseph's personality. Leah, you want to unmute and give us a little bit more? I'm going to scroll a little bit for us. There we go.
He asked Pharaoh's courtiers who were with him in custody in his master's house, saying, "Why do you appear downcast today?" And they said to him, "We had dreams, and there is no one to interpret them." So Joseph said to them, "Surely God can interpret them. Tell me your dreams."
Yeah, so you have a dream, you want to know what it means, but in prison, who's going to do it for you? You can't call, what's her name on TV to, help you with your dream interpretation. You need to have somebody who's going to say, hey, this is what it means. Then you feel better. It's like, it's like going to the doctor, got a problem. You want to ask the expert, say, hey, why is this going on? Oh, let me tell you, Fred, why is this happening to you? So, they need a little something. And lo and behold, Joseph is there. And Joseph, no stranger to dreams, is going to tell him a little something. Now, Joseph, of course, very humble, making sure everyone knows that God is going to be the one to interpret. God is going to give Joseph the wisdom, the insight, the perspective to interpret said dream. So let's find out what it means. The cupbearer is going to go first. Leah, give me a little more.
Then
Tell
the
me
chief,
the cupbearer.
then the chief cupbearer told his dream to Joseph. He said to him, "In my dream, there was a vine in front of me. On the vine were 3 branches. It was barely budded, when out came its blooms, and its clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand. I took the grapes, pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand."
That's a nice dream, right? We got vines, we got branches, we got grapes, we got a little bit of the good stuff, like that's not a bad dream. Wonder why he was so distraught. That's my question. That seems like a perfectly nice dream to have. Sandy, tell us what it means.
Joseph said to him, "This is its interpretation. The 3 branches are 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will pardon you and restore you to your post. You will place Pharaoh's cup in his hand, as was your custom formerly when you were his cupbearer. But think of me when all is well with you again, and do me the kindness of mentioning me to Pharaoh, so as to free me from this place. For in truth, I was kidnapped from the land of the Hebrews, nor have I done anything here that they should have put me in the dungeon."
Yeah, help a guy out, I'm going to give you a good interpretation. But when the time comes and you're free and you're pardoned, maybe put in a good word. It's the least you could do. Give me a reference, something. Get me out of here. So that's nice. It's also nice for Pharaoh. I mean, like the guy can't, even reach for his own wine cup. It's like, placing the cup into his hand. A little bit of laziness. I mean, come on, you can stretch at least. You don't have to press the grapes yourself. Like, give me one of these, give me a little outreach. But no, you got to place the cup right in his hand. I'll note, as a random tangent, that I went to St. Catherine's of Siena Church on Sunday with the confirmation class, and we got to sort of witness the Mass. And I didn't know this. The people leading the service, they didn't even open the prayer book. The older boys had it open for them so they could read. I'm working too hard. No one holds up my prayer book, and let me read. That's all I'm saying, It's like they're living well here at the Catholic Church. Don't gotta do anything themselves.
Rabbi, bring it up at the next board meeting. That should go
the
real
next
well.
board. I'm gonna bring this up. I mean, they're all there in their flowing robes and just like, come, bring me my book. It's like, come on now. I don't know. But that's neither here nor there. It just
The difference is you don't have a pope.
I don't have a pope. That's right. Thank God.
If you had a pope, the pope would tell them what to do.
Tell me what to do. It's like,
you just go straight to God.
Yeah, but I got that direct connect, like I got the good Wi-Fi. I got 5G, my goodness gracious. So anyway, that was a little bit of a diversion, but it amused me. So anyway, we're going to keep going here. Sandy, give me one more here. When the chief baker.
When the chief baker saw how favorably he had interpreted, he said to Joseph, "In my dream, similarly, there were 3 open work baskets on my head. In the uppermost basket were all kinds of food for Pharaoh that a baker prepares, and the birds were eating it out of the basket above my head." Joseph answered, "This is its interpretation. The 3 baskets are 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will lift off your head and impale you upon a pole. And the birds will pick off your flesh."
It's a rough go, I gotta say. Like he's sitting there going, "Oh, the cupbearer got a great interpretation. I got nothing to worry about." Smooth sailing through calm seas. Then it's not, your dream sucks. It's not a great dream. But by the way, you're gonna die. Not only die, but die pretty horribly. So Joseph maybe could have given him a little bit of a little softer interpretation here. But that's
a heads up?
Yes.
He gave him a heads up.
Give him a heads up. You're exactly right.
Oh, sorry.
Oh my God.
Aaron.
It's
Sorry.
a rough go. Lift off your head, a little Queen of Hearts, off of their head. It's a little bit brutal here. And then you're going to get the old shish kebab, which, in most cases is good, but this, again, not so much, to be kebabbed. And then the birds come and they eat him. So, yeah, not what you want is basically, I think, how we can summarize this. So he's not going to get a good reference from the baker. But again, it's moot. Yeah, exactly. It's moot for the baker. He's got nothing going on here. Impaling. We do see a few times in the Bible, sometimes hanging is misinterpreted for impaling. Again, none of it's what you want. I'll put it that way. And so the baker, again, whatever he did, must not have been great. And so, okay. The Pharaoh, it's going to be his birthday, Yom Huledet Sameach. It's nice to have a party, right? Barbara, you want to unmute and give me a little here?
On the third day, his birthday, Pharaoh made a banquet for all his officials, and he singled out his chief cupbearer and his chief baker from among his officials. He restored the chief cupbearer to his cupbearing, and he placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand. But the chief baker he impaled, just as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet the chief cupbearer did not think of Joseph. He forgot him.
Oh, man, foiled again. I got to say, it's not a party without someone being impaled. So, happy birthday to you. So Pharaoh has his birthday, gets his cupbearer, gets a little bit of, again, the good stuff, maybe a little Pinot Noir. In the cup, it's always very nice. But then the chief baker curtains down for the baker, as Joseph had said. But we get that sort of last sentence. Asked one thing, didn't ask for a lot. Joseph asked for one thing. Put in a good word. Be a person. Help someone out here. But of course, the chief cupbearer didn't think about it. And forgot him, and now Joseph is back to toiling. So close, but yet so far.
Did just see someone impaled before. So
yeah, and maybe the impaling took out some of the his memory. That's what's being noted here. It's a little distracting, when you see your fellow servant in that situation. So it's very traumatic. One can imagine. Okay. Next chapter, 41. Barbara, give me one more. After 2 years' time.
After 2 years' time, Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing by the Nile, when out of the Nile there came up 7 cows, handsome and sturdy, and they grazed in the reed grass. But presently 7 other cows came up from the Nile, close behind them, ugly and gaunt, and stood beside the cows on the bank of the Nile. And the ugly, gaunt cows ate up the 7 handsome, sturdy cows. And Pharaoh awoke.
Okay, so now Pharaoh has a dream. That's a little foreshadowing. We got cows, and so we have the strong, handsome, sturdy cows. I'm not sure if I've ever seen a handsome cow, but whatever. These very hardy, good-looking cows are there, and then the ugly, misshapen, gaunt, skinny cows eat up the other ones. And Pharaoh woke up, not amused, one can imagine. And then Gary, what happened next? Gary, you want to unmute? There you go.
Okay. He fell asleep and dreamed a second time. 7 ears of grain, solid and healthy, grew on a single stalk. But close behind them sprouted 7 ears, thin and scorched by the east wind, and the thin ears swallowed up the 7 solid and full ears. Then Pharaoh awoke. It was a dream. Next morning, his spirit was agitated, and he sent for all the magicians of Egypt and all of its wise men, and Pharaoh told them his dreams, but none could interpret them for Pharaoh.
Oh, thank you for that. So yeah, another dream similar to the first dream. We have the big ears of grain, And then the other ears came up to the skinny scorched ones, swallowing up the other good ones. And Pharaoh gets awake. He's got a lot of agita. He's got a little bit of heartburn. He's not feeling great. Then all of the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't interpret a dream for him. They were completely useless. So Pharaoh is again left in a state of confusion, and he's a little verklempt, as they used to say. He's not doing so great. Gary, give me one more. The chief cupbearer.
Okay. The chief cupbearer then spoke up and said to Pharaoh, I must make mention today of my offenses. Once Pharaoh was angry with his servants and placed me in custody in the house of the chief steward, together with the chief baker. We had dreams the same night, and he and I, each of us, a dream with a meaning of its own.
Oh, so now his memory is jogged. I remember 2 years ago when this happened, and so he's going to sort of give his spiel now. Okay. David Ellis, can you unmute David?
All right. A Hebrew youth was there with us, a servant of the chief steward, and we told him our dreams. He interpreted them for us, telling each of the meaning of his dream. And as he interpreted for us, so it came to pass. I was restored to my post, and the other was impaled. Thereupon Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and he was rushed from the dungeon. He had his hair cut and changed his clothes, and he appeared before Pharaoh.
Okay, so I remember there was this young guy who sort of like let me know things are going to be all right. This Hebrew youth interpreted my dream, didn't end well for the aforementioned baker. And then once, he gets this review, it's like getting 5 stars on Yelp. Pharaoh goes, okay, let's get him here. But you can't go to Pharaoh looking like a shmagegi. You have to, get dressed correctly, get a little trim. He's got to look attractive. He's got to look at his level best, I guess, for Pharaoh. Again, good looking dude. Can't be there looking, all over the place. And so they give him a little makeover, and he gets to come before Pharaoh. And so, Dave, want to give me one more? And Pharaoh said to Joseph.
And Joseph was a very, very dreamy guy, wasn't he?
He's got a lot of dreams.
Yeah, very dreamy. That's why I guess Potiphar liked him. All right.
Potiphar's wife liked him.
And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have had a dream, but no one can interpret it. Now I have heard it said of you that for you to hear a dream is to tell its meaning. Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, not I. God will see to Pharaoh's welfare. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, in my dream, I was standing on the bank of the Nile, when out of the Nile came up 7 sturdy and well-formed cows and grazed in the reed grass. Presently there followed them 7 other cows, scrawny, ill-formed, and emaciated. Never had I seen their likes for ugliness in all the land of Egypt. And the 7 lean and ugly cows ate up the first 7 cows, the sturdy ones. But when they had consumed them, one could not tell that they had consumed them, for they looked just as bad and scrawny as before. And I awoke.
Okay. He tells the cow dream. And, I think Joseph's nodding along, taking notes. Got a little Freud in him, I think. He's sort of there. Tell me more. Tell me about your dream. And Joseph is letting him know. I still think, again, every time of Les Mis, and I think if I dreamed a dream, because that's always like the Hebrew is chalamti chalom. I dreamed a dream. So I think of Les Mis each time. Okay, so he awakes, and then Pharaoh gonna get his money's worth. Oh, by the way, I had another dream. Debbie, you want to give that a read here?
Okay. In my other dream, I saw 7 ears of grain, full and healthy, growing on a single stalk. But right behind them sprouted 7 ears, shriveled, thin, and scorched by the east wind. and the thin ears swallowed the 7 healthy ears. I have told my magicians, but none has an explanation for me.
They're no help. You might as well fire them, these people. I mean, the baker gets impaled, but these magicians are useless and they're still around. I don't know, that baker must have done something, is all I'm saying. I think it was more than dropping the challah. I think something might have happened, there, because these magicians getting away with everything. So, but again, who am I to, judge, I guess, but nonetheless. So he gets his money's worth, tells him both dreams. And Debbie, Joseph said?
And Joseph said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh's dreams are one and the same. God has told Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 healthy cows are 7 years. The 7 healthy ears are 7 years. It is the same dream. The 7 lean and ugly cows that followed are 7 years, as are also the 7 empty ears scorched by the east wind. They are 7 years of famine. It is just as I have told Pharaoh. God has revealed to Pharaoh what he is about to do.
Yeah, we're a little slow to the point. Joseph sort of built up a little dramatic tension, I think, here about the cows and the ears and the this and the that. God's going to let you know. God's going to give you a little bit of a lesson here. And when you have the right guy here, the right person to interpret it, it's helpful. This way, it's not a surprise. It's very worthwhile, to have someone who is, someone who can predict and sort of tell the future. And you know how, you can tell if they're good at their job or not. So if they're right, if they're wrong, you get rid of them, but if they are able to sort of accurately predict the future, you got a job for life, so you're doing pretty well. It's very, very good to have some of these folks around. Pharaoh, of course, is going to be very happy with Joseph in just a minute, but Joseph still has to explain to Pharaoh what's going on here. Okay. I think we're at the top of the order again. Unless David, is Susan there?
I wonder why I didn't get on video tonight. I did something wrong, I guess.
I see you, Debbie. You're on video.
Let's see, Sue, want to read? She's sort of been out and about, round and about. Did you want to read? Sue? Hello? Oh, I guess she walked out again.
Okay, well, come back, let me know.
All right.
Okay. Rick, back to the top of the order.
Immediately ahead are 7 years of great abundance in all the land of Egypt. After that will come 7 years of famine, and all the abundance in the land of Egypt will be forgotten. As the land is ravaged by famine, no trace of the abundance will be left in the land because of the famine thereafter, for it will be very severe. As for Pharaoh, having had the same dream twice, it means that the matter has been determined by God and that God will soon carry it out.
Yes, the idea being if you dream it once, maybe you could, it's okay. But twice, oh my goodness, twice. That means that it's coming. It's coming like a freight train. You better get off the tracks. It's going to be right in front of us. And God is serious here. Because if we have a sense that these dreams are premonitions, are riddles, whatever it is, when you get the explanation, it helps. There's a Talmudic teaching, the dream follows the interpretation. And so if you go to somebody and you tell them your dream and they interpret it badly, it means that it's going to end up badly. But they can interpret the same dream, that it's going to be a blessing, a good thing, and then it's going to wind up good. So the best interpreters usually have good interpretation, because then you get repeat business. You don't get repeat business by giving a lot of bad reviews. But once again, it's the same problem, though, that if you give a bunch of good reviews and it turns out it's going to be bad, same problem, no repeat business, right? So you got to tell the truth. And so this is what it's going to be. So Joseph, again, knows what he's doing, has a little bit of divine inspiration, and is able to explain to Pharaoh what's going to happen. You're going to have 7 years, party time. We have great stuff going on everywhere. The economy is booming. Stock market's only going up. It's going to be Happy times, puppies and fireworks for everybody. Everyone's going to have a wonderful 7 years. And then it's all going to go downhill. It's going to be terrible. And it's going to be the recession. It's going to be really high inflation. It's going to be terrible. And all the good stuff that was there before is going to be gone, right? We're not going to have it anymore. Tough go. So what do you got to do? You got to have a plan, right? And again, Joseph, smart cookie. He's going to try to give Pharaoh a little bit of wisdom here, a little seichel, a little wisdom. He's going to set himself up for a good job. Give me one more.
Sell your stocks and put them all in fixed income instruments in year 6.
Cryptocurrency.
Accordingly, let Pharaoh find a man of discernment and wisdom and set him over the land of Egypt. And let Pharaoh take steps to appoint overseers over the land and organize the land of Egypt in the 7 years of plenty. Let all the food of these good years that are coming to be gathered, and let the grain be collected under Pharaoh's authority as food to be stored in the cities. Let that food be a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine, which will come upon the land of Egypt, so that the land may not perish in the famine. The plan pleased Pharaoh and all his courtiers.
Okay, so we're pleased, right? So again, Joseph, hey, you know what might be a good idea? Let's find someone who's wise and smart and discerning and maybe darn good looking, to be in charge, because that should help. And so gives him sort of the plan here. As a note, by the way, after 7 years, wouldn't some of this grain go bad? I never sort of sorted that out. I'm not Farmer Jim over here, but I would assume that after a certain amount of time, some of this grain wouldn't go well. So if anyone is an agriculturist or a horticulturalist, you could let me know differently.
It becomes beer.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of doesn't it ferment or degrade? It's like, I know the Twinkies last forever, but past that, I don't know.
Kimchi. It'll turn into kimchi.
Delicious, by the way. I haven't had kimchi in a while. Now I'm hungry. Okay, so excellent. I don't know. So that's not just neither here nor there. The idea is you're going to have these silos. There's going to be grain, and it's going to be wonderful. And you can have your, flour and cookies and cakes and stuff afterwards. As we put some of this stuff away, you got to plan for the future. You got to have a little foresight, a lot of thinking. So Joseph puts together this plan. And Pharaoh thinks, oh, that sounds great. That sounds just peachy keen to do that. Melissa, you want to tell us what Pharaoh has to say?
And Pharaoh said to his courtiers, could we find another like him, a man in whom is the Spirit of God? So Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has made all this known to you, there is none so discerning and wise as you. You shall be in charge in my court. And by your command shall all my people be directed. Only with respect to the throne shall I be superior to you.
Not a bad pitch. I mean, if you're going to get a job, HR did him well here, I guess. Took him 2 years, got out of jail. But aside from that, he's been rehabilitated. And so now he is back in the workforce. And Pharaoh's like, this guy is amazing. He's cool. You get to be vice president. You get to be second in command, and only because I'm Pharaoh, of course, I'm going to be the one notch higher. But aside from that, you got it. You got the run of the place. You have all the rights and privileges, which is pretty amazing. For Joseph, it's, again, quite a step up. You start the morning in jail, and the next in the afternoon, you're the vice president. Again, not a bad deal. For Joseph. Pharaoh's going to give him a little more conversation here.
Can I ask a question?
Please ask me a question.
Is this really supposed to be one man's life? I mean, when you look at Joseph's life, up and down and up and down and up and down, bad to good and bad to good and bad to good. It's almost like it, who could survive living like that from such radical changes?
It's a lot of ups and downs, to be sure. He really went from what is it? The top floor to the bottom floor. There's a phrase I'm struggling with. The penthouse to the outhouse. More than one here.
Daily.
That's what I was looking for. And so he's doing well. So yeah, I think it's part of the trope. If that's what you're asking for a greater sense thematically, the idea of somebody who has perseverance and is able to overcome a lot of trauma and tragedy, in his life, that he doesn't have the easiest road. He is like sort of being set up for success and then have it yanked out from underneath him each time. But he's still trying, he's still working, he's still scrapping, and trying to get there. But you were definitely right. It's a lot up and down for Joseph.
And no women. They don't mention.
We're getting there.
Okay.
We're getting there. He's discerning.
Okay.
It's interesting because, again, you get the image of him sort of walking down the street and the women are swooning. I'm not sure I've seen swooning, but they're very happy and excited. And actually, in a minute, we're going to see something. But the idea being that he really is, a matinee idol, to use an older phrase, right? He's somebody who is very sought after, but not ready to settle down just yet. I'm not sure, what his nights are like, but I was again, Bob's not recording everything, right? So who knows what's going on, in the excised chapters here. But one would think he's doing pretty well for himself, especially after this particular moment in time where now he's basically he's always had sort of the beauty, he's had the brains, and now he's got the money, now he's got the power. Yeah. Now I'm thinking of Scarface. That's another story. In America, first you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the women. That was Scarface, so nonetheless, I'm doing a little IMBD here. So there we go. So now he's got all that down, and now he's going to there's going to be almost a ceremony to signal the fact that he has made this ascent, that he is powerful. So Melissa, give me one more. Pharaoh further said.
Pharaoh further said to Joseph, "See, I put you in charge of all the land of Egypt." And removing his signet ring from his hand, Pharaoh put it on Joseph's hand, and he had him dressed in robes of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. He had him ride in the chariot of his second in command, and they cried before him, "A brek." Thus he placed him over all the land of Egypt.
I've never seen abrek really interpreted. I'm not sure if there's a note there, Rick, on what abrek might mean. Kneel is what we have, but some kind of hey, important man coming through, that kind of thing. So he gets the ring and puts it on his hand, gets some new duds. Again, he's already good looking, so now he's gonna get more clothes to accentuate that. A little linen, a little gold chain. And then he was riding around town. Hey, look at me, I'm awesome. But to let everyone sort of know, there's a new fella in charge here, a new boss in town, and he is placed all over Egypt. That he is powerful. We're not done yet. There's a little bit more of this. I got one more paragraph for Pharaoh and this promotion. Karen, you want to give that? Oh, actually, Tyler, are you still there, Tyler?
Sure. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I am Pharaoh. Yet without you, no one shall lift up hand or foot in all the land of Egypt." Pharaoh then gave Joseph the name Zaphenath-Paneah, and he gave him for a wife Asenath, daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. Thus Joseph emerged in charge of the land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Leaving Pharaoh's presence, Joseph traveled through all the land of Egypt.
It's a barnstorming tour. He's going to go out. He's going to, whip up the crowds and give them some understanding and teaching. He gets a new name. We've seen this before. with our patriarchs, but here it's sort of different. He sort of moves from having sort of that Israelite Hebrew name to an Egyptian name, so he gets this, and he gets a wife who, I gotta tell you, if you paid me, if you offered me $1,000, 10 minutes ago to ask me who Joseph's wife was, I couldn't give you the name. I think it's like mentioned once. Oh, that's right, good old Asenath. She doesn't really make it to the patriarchs and matriarchs. We don't get that later. But Asenath, the wife, daughter of Potpourri, whatever it is, then it's fine, I guess. And he's 30, not bad. Entering, a little more maturity, maybe a little, whatever it is. Now he's 30 and he gets to have his power and authority and money, and it's a great job. And he's doing well. He's doing well. Gone, long are the days you're left behind of being thrown in pits and in prisons and whatever it is. Now things are going well. Though, to Leah's point, one can maybe wonder about Joseph, if he was always sort of thinking, when's the rug going to get yanked out again? It's like, enjoy it while it lasts, Joseph. Enjoy it. Things are doing really well. Okay, and so now you have to almost imagine a little bit of a fade, a little bit of a dissolve. So like that part of the story is sort of finished. And now we're sort of moving along, 7 years later, kind of like we're in that point of the story now. We're moving a little quick to get these 7 years of abundance. So Karen, give me a little abundance here during the 7 years.
Abundance. During the 7 years of plenty, the land produced in abundance. And he gathered all the grain of the 7 years that the land of Egypt was enjoying and stored the grain in the city. He put in each city the grain of the fields around it. So Joseph collected produce in very large quantity, like the sands of the sea, until he ceased to measure it, for it could not be measured.
That's a lot. Yes, there you go. That's a lot of grain.
Yeah, telling you.
That's a lot of grain. How much grain is it? You can't even count it. Not a great punchline, but that's how much grain there is. It's a lot of grain. One has to assume they were building a lot of silos and a lot of sort of storage facilities, but whatever they needed to do, I guess, to collect all this grain. And then it's time for the famine. But before we get famine, we need a little more abundance. Linda, want to give us a little bit of abundance here?
Before the years of famine came, Joseph became the father of 2 sons, whom Asenath, daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore to him. Joseph named the firstborn Manasseh, meaning God has made me forget completely my hardship in my parental home. And the second he named Ephraim, meaning God has made me fertile in the land of my affliction.
So there he goes. He gets to have his 2 kids, Ephraim and Manasseh, or Manasseh and Ephraim in this case, but we're going to flip that, when we get a little later in the text. And so, got the 2 boys, not the, 13 kids that we had earlier, from the Jacob story. 2's good. It's going to be famine in a minute. You can't be feeding 13 kids. So, it's 2 is good to have at this point in time. Okay. Linda, a little more, the 7 years.
The 7 years of abundance that the land of Egypt enjoyed came to an end, and the 7 years of famine set in, just as Joseph had foretold. There was famine in all lands, but throughout the land of Egypt, there was bread. And when all the land of Egypt felt the hunger, the people cried out to Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph. Whatever he tells you, you shall do." Accordingly, when the famine became severe in the land of Egypt, Joseph laid open all that was within and rationed out grain in the Egyptians. The famine, however, spread over the whole world. So all the world came to Joseph in Egypt to procure rations for the famine that become severe throughout the world.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and so it's a problem. Everyone's hungry. It used to be, the world was Sizzler. You just sort of ate whatever you wanted at the buffet, at the salad bar, all the croutons and dressings and chicken wings that you wanted. I guess I don't remember that well. Like my grandparents used to take me to Sizzler, a blessed memory, like 30 years ago.
A few months ago.
Well, yeah. Rick found the Sizzler a few months ago. I haven't even seen one. But yeah, and so, but life was good. The buffet was out. Who doesn't like a good buffet? So it's a nice time. But now, not so much. Now you got to ration. You get a little bit here, a little bit there. You got to make everything last. And so Joseph has that pleasant task to let everyone know, hey, now's not the time to be buying up all the food. It's not going to happen for you. So I hope you're not too hungry. You're going to get maybe one piece of bread and not 15 pieces of bread. It's going to be a different world, different reality. But all the world, there's famine everywhere. We need to find food. So people have to come get it. And who's going to come to Joseph looking for a little bit of food?
Everybody.
Everybody's going to come to check it out. And then very importantly, next week, of course, it's going to be his brothers coming to schnorr for food. So that's where we're going to pick up next time on chapter 42. Jacob's going to realize, hey, there's a little food in Egypt. You can't go down the street to Publix. You got to schlep out a little bit, for the food. So you got to send out the brothers here to get down to Egypt and get some food. All the shelves are out of stock in Canaan. And so we need a little more food. Okay. So with all that, yeah.
I just have a quick question. I forgot the name of the Broadway show, Amazing Joseph and the Amazing what?
Yeah,
Color?
Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Does that, I'm going to have to look it up and look at it during the week. Does that have any of the history of, I wonder, I haven't seen that show.
I've never seen it actually, so I don't know, but I would guess that it has some of the stuff in there. I just don't know where it goes to beginning or end.
And have you ever had a bar or bat mitzvah do this part of the Torah for their speech? Like, I wouldn't even know. I would enjoy reading how they managed to get all of this into their bat mitzvah speech.
Believe me, this is much preferred to Leviticus.
Yeah.
But they must have had some challenge to try and get this into a speech somehow related.
Oh, I think you could manage that.
Yeah, no,
the good times and the bad times,
Yeah, good times, bad times, planning, preparation, the need for some kind of like, if we plan, we're successful. The part where, Jacob's boss's wife hits on him a little bit. We don't do that one as much. It's like we try to avoid some of the more PG-13. I can never give the Judah and Tamar story, for a bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah. You don't want that.
So if they were doing their speech, they would concentrate on possibly not having food and having plenty of food.
Hunger, scarcity. There's a lot to play with leadership.
Don't mess with your boss's wife.
Yeah, don't mess with your bosses. So there's a lot of good stuff to add in. But I'll end here and sort of say that so I have a brother, younger brother who has some affiliation with his synagogue, but he has a strong sense of Jewish identity. My cousin, whose bar mitzvah portion was Tazria, which is all about purity laws after pregnancy and like menstruation and then skin disease. He's no longer Jewish. So there might be something to that. Still,
by the way, By the way, the musical does follow the story very closely. Only they make
Yeah.
the Pharaoh is Elvis.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna have to look at it during the week.
It's worth watching. Get the video or
Yeah,
or
I
at least
will during the week. I just want to
It's
see how much of that is like this.
follows very.
You can watch that, and then you can watch Jesus Christ Superstar, which I also have.
Oh, that's a good one too.
You know,
It's by the same people.
Yep.
yeah, I think it's a lot of Andrew Lloyd Webber, right? You know, he's
And Tim Rice. Yep.
yeah. Phantom I liked. I'm sure there are a couple others, but Phantom I liked. Anyway, with that said,
Thank you
catch
very
you all-
much.
We'll catch you all next time around.
Yeah, Thank
We
you,
can do our
Rabbi.
musical trivia, which I enjoy. So we can do that a little more. See you all next week around, and then the adult B'nai Mitzvah folks can stay on. Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.